All right, guys, this is a pretty cool study that just came out recently about fasted training, and actually very conclusively seems to indicate that it seems to hurt strength gain. So let me move this out of the way. Effects of time a day resistance training on muscle strength, normal adaptations, and sleep quality during Ramadan fasting. So what they did was during Ramadan fasting, which is no drinking, that kind of thing, they could eat only in the evening. And they trained in the morning to see what that would have on strength gains and even performance and things like that. And it was actually fairly stark. So this is just a quick review. By the way, this is Mental Hazelman. He's great channel. You should go check him out on Instagram. So they both groups practiced intermittent fasting from sunrise to sunset. The fasted group trained in the afternoon. The fed group trained after breaking the fast after sunset. They can eat after sunset during Ramadan. So there were no significant differences between the groups in their total daily macronutrients of water intakes. This is very important, meaning that nobody was like eating more than the other. They're eating about the same amount, which is very significant. Now, what we basically observed in the study, or what they observed in the study, was that their 1 rep max was increasing more in the group that trained in the evening after consuming a meal. This is how they kind of tested it. It was a few weeks of study, and they would do a 1 rep max test every few weeks, that kind of thing. Nothing crazy here. That they actually, the way that they tested this was actually pretty valid. 12 reps by 75 to 85% of 1 rep max, and then they would also do 1 rep max tests, and rest was 2 minutes, 3 to 4 sets. Actually, pretty decent set reps for most of these studies. They're usually not this good, so this is actually better than what I see in most cases. So the fed group gained significantly more 1 rep max strength, but on the squat and deadlift, but not the bench press. I thought that was very interesting, by the way, and I'm glad he highlighted this. I don't think we know conclusively why, but I suspect it's because of the glycolytic differences between the any lower body movements and bench press. And honestly, probably most of these subjects didn't have a huge bench press. Frankly, unless you have a bench press that's over 400 pounds, you're not burning that much when you bench press because it's just not that much muscle mass. You're also not moving it through as large of a range of motion as, say, the squat, for example. And there's just not as much muscle being recruited during the movement, so there's less energy burned. And so that would kind of make sense why it didn't necessarily make as big of a difference on bench press. And again, these were smaller bench press numbers, so it would kind of make sense that the energy requirements are really not that significant or that high. And of course, the fed group also had a significantly more favorable testosterone to cortisol ratio throughout the study. That totally makes sense because training while fasted is stressful on your body, and doing certain actions such as hard training, heavy training while fasted is a stress on the body. Doesn't mean you should never do it, but it does mean that chronically doing so can introduce a stress to the body, which could eventually reduce testosterone. The testosterone to cortisol interplay is well established. It's not really questionable at this point. And so if you're someone that's cranking up cortisol levels chronically without the basically opposing dopamine signaling, which you wouldn't necessarily be getting in a fasted state training, it would be very difficult to get that proper dopamine signaling. You're going to be at a disadvantage when it comes to your natural testosterone production. It's also important to note that Ramadan fasting also prohibits drinking. I think I mentioned this before. Other studies came to similar conclusions, but they don't allow calories to be consumed. There's no calories consumed from alcohol, which is fairly calorie dense. There's going to be some more info on this coming out later by them, but I just wanted to point out this is fairly conclusive. I've always advised my clients to stay away from fasted weight training. Now, fasted cardio does seem to have some merits, but fasted weight training, that's something I usually advise against, just because your performance is not going to be as good, so you're not going to be able to get the training quality, the training intensity that you might otherwise have gotten in. And it does reduce your ability to recover because you're going to have to refeed after, and you want to not have to refeed quite as much during that type of context. So when you come off of the workout and you start eating, you don't want to be as depleted if possible, because you're having to overcome that sort of deficit and work up from a lower level of glycolytic capability. Whereas if you ate beforehand, you're not going to be as depleted, and you're going to be able to spend that energy on recovery much more readily in that particular modality. So I've always done it this way. I recommend everyone do so. And now we even have good clinical evidence that seems to have caught up with the coaches. So thanks, guys. See you later. Like, share, and subscribe if you liked it, and hit me up if I can help you with your coaching.